books.
Yeah.
So on intangible assets, so one is you purchase or buy an intangible asset, could be patent, could be copyright or customer list, as Kunit mentioned. That is something you can easily recognize for, you know, the cost around it. One of the main points or questions that are tested in the exam, how do we deal about the internally generated intangible assets? Say you are, going around and making a new software of your own that you are developing internally. So how does the research and development cost that you're spending internally around it could go to thousands, millions of dollars? How are you accounting those for?
So now in here, we'll start with ASPE first because the difference with IFRS is not much. So the research phase, we all know that the research phase has to be expensed, and this we've been doing since our CA times also. All the expenses that are incurred in the research phase have to be expensed. This is the same in IFRS and ASPE, right? The only difference is for the development costs. Now in ASPE, ASPE gives you an accounting policy choice that you can either expense the development costs or you can capitalize the development cost. However, in IFRS strictly says that if you meet the criteria that we'll go to in the next step, then you have to capitalize that the cost incurred in the development stage
Like
of
there
the
is
internally.
no choice that that you can expend or capitalize. You have to capitalize. So what are the
Now, sorry, just one linkage point. So you remember the first standard that we did today, that was change in accounting estimate. And in that standard, ASPE mentioned in the bracket that if there is any specific standard that gives you a choice, right? You remember? So this is one of the standards in SP that actually gives you a choice.
So this is the part that Kunit is trying to mention.
Yeah.
Like ASPE, so unless a specific section allows you an accounting choice without the need of meeting the requirements of this section.
Yeah. So now in this case, an entity, if it follows ASPE, they can make that choice, right? And ASPE will allow them to do that, even if that choice does not meet any of the criteria of relevant, reliable information or requirement by GAAP. Okay. So that's the point. Like this is one example of that.
What cost? Cost can be capitalized only if the entity demonstrates all. So this should be all. So all of the following.
And this is a very important question. This is can't emphasize enough. This is very important.
And this is one of those questions where we were mentioning that, if you remember good, but if it is easier to copy paste from
If
the
you know
handbook,
exactly the place where it is in the handbook, we would recommend that you copy.
That you can copy this, and then in front of this you can say met, not met, met, not met,
and do your own
why. Yeah.
do your own analysis.
Yeah.
But just to explain you, these are the basically the factors that the entity needs to basically demonstrate or satisfy in order to capitalize costs for the development phase. Now, first is technical feasibility. Is it technically even feasible to complete that asset? First thing. Second, ability to use or sell. Now, even if you complete that asset, are you capable of either using that asset in-house or selling it? Third, does the management even have an intention to complete the asset? Because mind you, the asset is still in the development phase, right? So the entity has to prove that the management does have an intention to complete the asset. It's not like they'll start capitalizing expenses starting today and even 10 years later, they're still kind of in the development phase only. Now, how the intangible asset will generate probable future economic benefits means the market. Does the intangible even have a market where you can sell it or rent it out or anything of that sort? Availability of adequate resources to complete the development. Now, even if you have the intention and the ability to maybe use it or sell it in the future, but do you have even the resources required to complete the development phase of the asset? And last, for all these costs here, can you even measure the costs? If you satisfy all of these 6 conditions, right, then you can do your analysis next to each of the point, and then you will at the end you will conclude and say that since the internally generated asset mentioned in the question meets all the above criteria, the conclusion is that we can capitalize basically the development portion of the expenses.
So how do we remember this is? So we used a acronym timer. So that's technical feasibility, ability to use sell, intention, then do you have the market, and then do you have the resources. And sixth one is more or less coming from the recognition criteria only, ability to measure the expenditure. And as Gurik mentioned, so once all of these six conditions, five, six conditions are satisfied, then is the point that you can capitalize if it is ASPE. But if it is IFRS and these points satisfy, you must capitalize. And you would see in, I think, two to three specific CFE cases that they give you different set of costs, like four to five different costs. And then you say, okay, this is a research phase, so you would expense, this is development phase, and you can capitalize and stuff like that. So you just analyze once and then you comment on all those four five items all at once.
Yeah, because normally in the question, it will not just be a theory question. They will actually give you a situation and then give you costs. So, but your response has to start
With this.
with this first.
Yeah. And as Guneet mentioned previously, even before this, you have to go to definition of intangible asset always, and then this recognition criteria, and then you reach here. So I know it is a loop, and there are times when you do not have enough time. That is why it is really important if you can, quickly remember or maybe try to form this in 2 lines, 2.5 lines, then go to recognition, which is broadly it definition, and then just add this 1 line. So you are through with this. You do not have to go to handbook, and then you maybe copy paste or maybe write it on your own, up to you.
Yeah, but I think these standards you can still get yourself well accustomed to the handbook, because it would anyway be easy if you copy paste from the handbook, because if whatever you are bringing from the handbook, you have to add 1 line or 1 or 2 line to that paragraph for your analysis. So rather save that time on writing yourself. Like, but just know you have to learn these still. Like, I'm not saying that if you are going to the handbook anyway, don't learn them. Still learn them, because they're pretty simple and you should have them in your mind at all times as to what
Right.
you're looking for, right? Just copy paste, do your analysis in your own words, so that the handbook thing is also there, but your own analysis actually includes the keywords, right? Because from this slide, you will remember these slides, you'll remember the keywords that you need to mention in the exam. So once you have those keywords, nobody can, question your response.
And more or less, we have tried to bold enough whatever best we could. So, yeah. And you can note down this acronym if you want, timer.